Good morning. We're having a call with everybody together. I want to talk about call-by-call management. We had some examples of how call-by-call management actually will help you make money, that your faith is in your hands. And if you manage every call that comes in or gets dispatched and you help your technicians by letting them know what to do, what the first step is and everything else, that would actually help you make more money. And one of the examples we used was, the weekend, Corey was working with his guy out in the field, and he went out there, and Albert ended up became over a $50,000 or $100,000 weekend with following up Monday and Tuesday with the calls that rolled over. So this is the impact call-by-call management could make. So I want everybody to keep managing every single call coming in. As it's getting dispatched, make sure you call your tech, make sure they call you when they're on their way, and make sure we get a camera in every line. And what we talked about was with technicians was keeping the urgency up. Okay, we had some examples from last week that I gave on calls that came in the night before and how we kept the urgency up and went out the next day and sold something. And a lot of times keeping that urgency up is one of the most important things you can do. And the way you relieve urgency, like we said last week, was when you drop the water, you clean up and you're gone. And we don't do that. On night calls, we talked about if you have to pull a toilet to run a cable, and if you drop the water, if it's not going right, leave something off. Maybe, you leave the toilet valve off till the next day. Or if you're going to come run a camera out of that toilet, then get one of those test plugs, the wing nut test plug. Everybody should keep it in their truck, 2.5 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch. You should all have those sizes. And if you have to leave a toilet off, you could put one of those test wing nuts in there. You could seal that drain really well, leave the toilet on the side, and tell them we'll be back at 7:30, 8, 9 o'clock, whatever time your channel leader tells you could be there. If you do that, the urgency will stay because the customer wants you to come back because the toilet is off, right? So when you get a midnight call, they have 3 other toilets in the house and one of them is removed, and you put a gym cap in there, it's no big deal. It'll allow you to get back into the house the next day. So I just want, to recap on those because I think those are extremely important in bringing our job average up. Okay, and this week we're going to talk about 3 topics. We're going to talk about one topic, but there's 3 areas to this one topic. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about how to make money. We're going to talk about how to save it and how to invest it. Okay, we're going to talk about all 3 of those. And I have a few people on the line that I've had conversations with about this topic. We're going to do some Q&As, and hopefully you guys are going to gather some nugget and go out there and apply some of the strategies you're going to learn. First, let's talk about make it, okay? Because if we don't make it, the other 2 don't matter, okay? If we don't make money, what are you going to save and what are you going to invest? There's nothing, the other 2 do not work unless you make it. We're going to focus on making it, and there's very important steps that we have to do to make money in our field. And one of the most powerful things I think you can do when you arrive to a call or before you arrive is to pump yourself up. Get in the mindset of that you are going to do something, you are going to make money, you're going to help a customer, you're going to solve their problem, and pump yourself up. Too many of us on the way to the call, instead of pumping ourselves up, we're negatively talking to ourselves about the call, going, man, that zip code or that last name or oh man, I know there's no money there. I'm just wasting time. Look at that. It's a kitchen faucet leaking. How the heck do I make money on this call, right? Some of you are doing the reverse. Instead of pumping yourself up, going, man, I get an opportunity in front of me. You're actually killing the call, trying to find ways not to go to the call or whatever the case is, okay? And you got to get out of that mindset if you want to make money, okay? Because if you go in with that mindset and you do not want to go on to that call, you're going to get there and I'll guarantee you're not going to make any money on it. Unless you get into the right mindset, you're not going to make money on that call. Okay, so you got to go in with pumped up, ready to give it all you got, and you have to go in with the mindset and imagining that you're actually fixing it. I was talking to Eric with an A from Vegas, riding with them not too long ago, and Eric says, John, you know what I do when I'm going to a call? I go, what do you do, Eric? He's like, before I get there on my iPad, I look at the house. Okay, I guess we have the feature of clicking on the house and then the maps pop up or whatever, and then you could see the front of the house. And then he goes, I look at the house for a minute or 30 seconds. I look at the house and I imagine myself digging outside. I go, you what? He goes, I imagine myself digging outside. I go, that's amazing. The guy is in the mindset that driving to the call, imagining that he's digging outside. I go, Eric, like, why do you do this? He goes, because if they have a problem, he goes, I could already see myself fixing it. That's an incredible mindset. What a different way to think, right? I imagine myself digging. I go, that's exactly what you got to do if you want to make money. That's the reason why every month after month, 50, 60, 80,000 as a technician, you're hitting these numbers. It's because you're imagining that you're actually digging out there. So I want to share that story because it's extremely important, guys, for you guys to pump yourselves up when you're going out there. Now, the next most important thing you got to do when you get out there is do not screw the call up. As channel leaders, I don't know how many times we've been out to calls and we have to make up for the screw up that the technician has done. Either they've gone in there, talked too much instead of working, given a price, and now they want their channel to go out there with a magic wand, or the channel's on their way, they're sitting in the van instead of working or doing something, right? Don't screw the call up. It's important not to screw it up. If you're going to do anything, at least leave it neutral. Your channel leaders are good and they could go out there and they could make up for some of the screw up, but sometimes we screw the call up so bad, the customer doesn't want to do the work. Your job is to get the customer to like you, so when your channel comes out there, that the customer wants you to do the work. This is the key, guys. Take small steps. Start working. Use the 5 keys. Start working. Use the 5 keys and take steps. I was talking to one of the channels last week where he said, man, we lost a call to a competitor. I go, what happened? He goes, we went out there and $77. From there, we went out and now we're giving the customer a bunch of numbers, right? Instead of taking steps. Look, guys, the thing we do here is we take steps, okay? You got $77 call. At least take 1 step if you're not going to take 2 steps. I usually take 2 steps on a call, okay? But if you're not going to take 2, at least take 1 step, okay? If we are running a camera for free, okay, we should be charging for the line locator. The customer is not going to pay us $300, $400 for a line locator that we're going to credit the cable to. Then how do you think you're going to get a $3, $4, $5, $10,000 job, right? It's not going to happen. Take small steps, guys. I usually go from 77, maybe a camera or a line locator. And then from that, I go to a repair, just get in the dirt. And then from there, I pull out the options because it gives me enough time to go out there and help the customer. So I want to ask Nick. Nick's a newer channel. He's worked for us before in the past, and he's building his team right now. Nick, give me some tips on how you take steps when you go to a call.
Absolutely. We say it in almost every meeting, and we talk about, especially the people that do well and are most consistent, how it's not the call, it's the customer. And so when you start to understand that and you're there and you're paying attention to the customer and not your call, then you're going to start to see things unfold because you're actually opening your ears and listening to them, listening to whatever it is that their concerns are before you even start to present anything. Basically, the pressure starts to release in the customer's mind and it's starting to feel at ease. It could just be with who you are as a person because you're simply there talking to them or whatever, not even so much your workmanship. They're going to start to offer you things, whether it be some water. Maybe wait until you get some water offered to you before you even present that you're concerned with their system. At the end of the day, we all know that there's an issue. We're driving to the call because they called us with an issue. So at some point in time, you're going to present to them that there's an issue. It's inevitable. So maybe just slow yourself down a little bit and wait until some things start happening in the call that you see with the customer, the connection, before you present it. And if you're not getting there, then start to figure out who you're being on the call to start to make that connection. And then when you get in and you start running your cable, just be conscious of what you're doing. Time yourself. Run the cable for an hour. Check in with the customer. It's not going to hurt you to stop after 30 minutes of cabling and go check in with the customer and start talking to them and just see where their head's at. They're going to be concerned. They may check in on you, and that now you start to know you're making progress on the call, and then you can start to close the doors is the best way I can explain it. So if you've made a connection, then that door's shut. Now you can start to educate them and present whatever concerns you may have. and why you have them. After you do that, that door shut. Now you're ready to call your channel leader. And if you don't got those two doors shut, don't even bother calling anybody. Or maybe your channel leader is communicating with you throughout the call, however you're going to do it. But just start to make sure that you're crossing those or closing those doors, crossing those barriers, however you want to explain it. And if you're not, you're going to naturally slow yourself down. And I guarantee you, if everybody slows themselves down, more stuff will happen. Whether you learn where you messed up and on the next you'll regroup from that, or you will see a step that you were about to miss and you got it and you'll capitalize. The best thing, I guess, is the basics. Slow yourself down.
Slow down and start working. You know what the key thing I took up from what Nick just said is run your cable even if you have to run it for an hour. Call the customer out. Get them involved. I remember going out to this call a while ago. Customer called us and said, hey, I want an estimate on replacing my sewer line. So just going out there, I was just curious why this customer wanted an estimate for a sewer line. So got out there and I said, I'm just curious. I mean, it's not usual for customers to call us and go, I want to replace my sewer line. Why is it that you want an estimate for the sewer line? Well, a company came out here yesterday and said that there's a problem and they said, I need a new sewer line. I just want to get another estimate. I said, okay, did they run a camera? Said, yeah, they ran a camera. They showed me. Did they take a video of the line? Can I see it? No, they didn't take a video of the line. They just showed me. They said that I have problems here and there. So, my thing with the customer was that, okay, let me slow down. I mean, this customer's got a lot of information. You mind if I just run a cable? I mean, what if you don't need a sewer line? I mean, I would hate to replace it and give you a good estimate, and then all of a sudden you go do it and we replace it. And then we find out that we didn't have to replace it. And the customer said, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. I go, can I start out by running the cable? The customer said, sure. I go, it's only $77. And let me run it. After that, I'll do a free camera inspection. But let me just see if I'm hitting anything in the drain. So I slowed down. I went way back to the first step, started to work. Customer wants an estimate. I want to work. So guys, this is what you got to do when you go out to a call. When somebody says something needs to be done, it doesn't always mean that you got to go the way the customer is pointing you. Take the customer in the direction that you want to go. Well, long story short, we ran the cable and said, you know what? We did hit something. I don't know what it is. We're going to go ahead and run the camera. We ran the camera. We need to locate the line to see how deep it is. We credited that towards a locator. And then we got the dig. We got the job. But it took us an hour and a half of working for the customer, educating the customer, and then having them, do this and do that. And the customer ended up doing the job with us. Instead of getting an estimate, trying to decide who they wanted to do the work with, they ended up just going with us. This is what you got to do when you go to a call. You got to start working, okay? Working is the key to everything. Even if the customer says this or that, you're the professional. Get them. I was curious. Some customers want an estimate for something. You got to be curious about why they want something, right? So remember, use the strategy of just working and then getting your channel to the call, okay? One, you take steps and do options all the time. I want you to tell me how. You guys are running an incredible job average, by the way. I mean, you have a team of 5 guys. You do $500,000 in revenue. Your techs are doing 100,000 plus every month. And the calls are no different, okay? I don't care what everybody says. The calls are no different because I ran them over there and I ran them everywhere else. Tell me what you guys do to make money. How do you get your team to make money the way you do? How do you get your conversion rate up to 80, 90%? Give us some nuggets.
I'll start off from the beginning. First thing I know, these guys wake up really early. They check in. I usually send them a text every morning. We're texting back and forth. First thing they do, I know they check in. Calls really early. As soon as they get out there, they get to work. They'll get out there, they'll start working, they'll get the snake in there, get the snake in the line, they'll sell the cameras, they're selling the sewer camera or the line location. Sometimes the guys will be running the snake, sometimes it'll be a back-to-back, a LAVC, and they'll say, hey, you know what we need to do is we need to cut off the section in the drywall so that we can even run the snake, because sometimes it'll have that cross key. They'll open up the wall $700, $800, $1,200, and we go from there. So the first thing they do is they show up, they start working from what I see. They're connecting with the client. They're snaking the drain. As they're working, they're talking, right? They don't show up and just look at it, talk at it, have a standoff, because some guys do that, right? They show up, they just talk and talk and talk, and they get everybody out there, and the next thing you know, you're laying down options, right? Because believe it or not, that does happen, with some of the newer guys. But yeah, one of the biggest things I can see with my guys is that they show up, they get their snake in there, they start working, they'll take the call up to $500, $1,200. They get me out there, and then I'll show up, I'll give the options, and then close the deal. And then from there, we go back. And that's where I don't think I know, the biggest impact that we made with being able to do 500, 600, and to do those numbers is going back to the jobs. And I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. The biggest way to get to those numbers is really just going back to the job that you have, because you already have a great reputation with the client and you have a big advantage already because you're already doing the work. Sometimes some of these clients start out, picking an option with 18 grand. Now you got to go back and take another step. See, but some people say, hey, you know what? We got 18 grand. We're good. Client's going to be tapped out. I don't think we should go and upsell them or go back for more. I don't want to lose this, but I didn't just, letting them know, hey, you know what? Because when you try and go from 5,000 to 40 grand, you can get lucky, right? But you also get lucky and get a complaint, get a headache. If I got a call at 5, I'll take it to 10. From 10, I'll take it to 18. From 18, I'll take it to 32. And this is the part where most people won't do it because it's a lot of work. And sometimes it's just all in the mindset. They start, tripping themselves out. You know what? I don't know. I don't want, this to happen or that to happen. But you're not going to go from, $77 to 40 grand. You're setting yourself up for failure at that point.
That's right. Don't be afraid to ask for more work. Don't be afraid. The key I got here, guys, with Juan said it doesn't matter what the call is. The step is the step, okay? Sometimes the step is just to open up the drywall for $500, $600, $700. It's to cut out that Santee in the wall, right? That your cable won't go through, or, whatever is causing it, or it's rusted, or it could be a piece of pipe under the house for $1,100, $1,200. It could be a $500. But there's always a step. There's always a step. Sometimes a step is pulling a toilet. Sometimes a step is cutting a wall open. And if you are going to cut drywall open, guys, make sure that you have the, 7 mil bags and you follow the instructions of how to open up drywall, because 50% of the drywall out there has asbestos in it. And right now, that's an important thing. So this is a little disclaimer, okay? Make sure you follow the drywall opening procedures that we talked about in one of the meetings. I think it was 2-3 meetings ago. Take a step. He goes out to a call. Go back to the call. I've got a story about a call 4 years ago. I went out to Phoenix. I flew out there. Corey picked me up. We had an ops leader that was there, and the channel leader was off that day, and there was no calls on the board. Fly out there. I'm like, man, guys, I've seen a dream. In my dream, we sold a big job. So let's get out to a call. He goes, there's nothing. We just have one job in progress. I go, let's go over there. He goes, no, we talked to Pete and he said there's no more money out there. I go, how much is the job? It was like a, I don't know, $16,000 job or something. I go, dude, I bet you there's more money out there. Let's just go out to this call. Sure and behold, we go out to this call. They got 200 feet of sewer that is not being replaced on the property. Okay, we're replacing everything from the back of the, house. The sewer comes out from the back of the house, goes to the side, and then we were replacing it in the backyard, and then it turns and goes to the side driveway, and then there's a 200-foot driveway. And the customer said, I just don't want to replace it all. So I go out there and then, long story short, there was money out there. Okay. We got an additional $22,000 on that job, had a steak dinner with the customer, turned out to be a really good client. I delayed my flight a little bit because the guy needed to get home from work. We had no calls on the board, went back to a call that they said there was no calls, and we ended up getting an additional $22,000. I want you guys to pay attention to what Juan said and the story I just mentioned. Go back to the call. This is for channel leaders. Go back to the call. A bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. Okay, when a customer has already committed spending money with us, they are going to spend more money with us. The people writing the big checks will write bigger checks. I hear message after message that we go on recalls and we end up getting more work on recalls. So hopefully you guys got a few nuggets on how to make money, some more additional steps on how to make money. Now let's talk about the call that you don't want to go to is probably the call you should be at, okay? It's probably the call you should be at. Remember, sometimes we get a call, the last call of the day, and it's like dispatch wants to get this call off the board. Hey, can you take this? And it's like 5 o'clock and man, my shift's over. And you're like, man, I don't know. I got to go do something or, I'm just tired, right? As a channel, you get a call. Hey, so-and-so is over here. The one that your mind tells you, man, I just don't go to that. That's probably where the money's at. I don't know how many times that's happened to me that I didn't want to drive all the way out to this area. It was too damn far. Traffic, you're going up against traffic, all of this stuff. You get out there and it's like, man, this should have been the call. This is the call of the day. So remember, the call you don't want to go on is probably the call that you should go on, okay? Because it's probably where the money's at. Okay, let's talk about saving it. Download this thing called Audible. It's an audiobook app, okay, that you could get on Android and you can get it on Apple. Okay, it's called Audible. When you download it, it's like a subscription. It's like what, $10 a month. And then it gives you a free audiobook every month. It's not free because you get one book with your subscription every month. And then if you want to get any more audiobooks, then you can buy more because you got your credit card linked to it. But let me tell you the education I got in the truck when I was driving. Ever since I was a plumber and driving to customers' homes and doing all this, I have listened to nothing but audiobooks. I probably went through 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 audiobooks. I got more education in my plumbing truck than I did all the years I went to high school and junior high and everything else. This is your best educational tool. If you guys are driving a lot, which I know you are, get audiobooks. Start listening to audiobooks, guys. This is how you're going to sharpen up your skills. I just finished a book over the weekend called The Latte Factor. And this book talks about everybody has the ability to save money, okay? But we just convince ourselves and tell ourselves we can't. And it goes to a story about this girl named Zoe that had a belief system that she's not making enough money, she can't save money, she can't get anywhere in life because her mother is in her head. Just like a lot of us, whatever we grew up with is in our head and it's holding us back. When she got her mother out of her head and she knew that she can do this. In fact, I think at the end, her mother encouraged her before she passed away. It's a really good book. It's only 3 hours, but it talks about how to pay yourself first. And the principle goes back to the compound interest effect, okay? How much money you can actually put away with compound interest. And as little as $20 a day, she cut out, going to Starbucks and buying coffee and started making it at home and stopped buying a muffin from Starbucks and started packing lunch. Making that small little shift, she started putting away almost a fortune and was on track to become a millionaire. And some of us you guys are young guys, man. You're in your early 20s. I'm telling you, get on the 401k, exhaust the 401k because we put money in the 401k for you. It's pre-tax. Change a little habit, put $20 a day, pay yourself first. $30. If you can actually put $20 a day in 10 years, I think it was 20 years, you'll be a millionaire with $20 a day. Okay, 5 days a week. I mean, if you could put more than that, I'm going to tell you what that's going to compound into over time. On a regular, whatever the stock market is, usually if you put it into some aggressive long-term mutual funds, you could get up to 10%. It's not unknown over time to get 10%. $20 a day over 10 years comes out to $500,000. So the more you could put, the actually better that you can do. If you actually start getting better and put in double that, you'll almost triple it, okay? You'll almost triple it because the power of compound interest is incredible. And everybody should be actually on the 401k. I'm pretty amazed that we have so much little participation that's going on whenever open enrollment happens. Get your application in and exhaust it because we put the first $4,000 in for you. I think you could put up to $20,000 a year into that plan, okay? And if you do, you could build your 401k over 20 years. You could build your 401k to be, $1.2, $1.5 million, okay? But you got to start now. You got to not stop doing it. If you guys are on 1099, because we have a few people that are on that, exhaust the Roth IRA. Put it in the Roth IRA. You got to save the money, guys. We got this book. If you read this book, it'll tell you exactly how to do it. And it doesn't matter how much you're making. It doesn't matter. This girl, Zoe, was making probably $15 an hour, and she was able to start putting money away by just cutting out some of the extras in her life, like cutting out the cable bill that she never watched or whatever the case was. Found a way to put away enough money to get on the verge of becoming a millionaire. And everybody could do this, but it takes discipline to do it. So I urge everybody to do it. And once you do, then start investing the money. The power of compound interest is great, but also investing the money. Warren Buffett made 99% of his wealth after the age 50. So if you guys think it's too late, it's not too late. I mean, here's one of the richest men in the world. This guy's a billionaire. He used to be the number 2 richest man in the world. He used to be, somebody else took over, but he's still in the top 10. And this guy made 99% of his wealth after the age 50. He learned how to invest, hold on to stocks. He learned and then he started a company and helped other people invest. So I want Corey to get on the phone now because Corey is really good at this. He's actually taught me on how to do some. Corey, I just downloaded this app called Robinhood where you can buy stock right away just off of your phone. Because after I read The Latte Factor, this is what it said in the book. It said, invest in the companies that you actually use all the time. I do a lot of shopping on Amazon. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to buy some Amazon stock. And I know you told me about the Amazon of China and how that grew as well. Corey, can you give us a few tips? This is for the guys that have the capability to do the investment. Just a few tips on investing.
As far as having the capability to invest, John, I know you're talking about how to make money and how to keep it, but how to keep your money and how to invest it really fall into the same category for me. I mean, early on, not a lot of people know my story, but early on when I first became a plumber, I mean, I was like so many of you guys, I was dirt poor. I was getting the 29-cent. If you guys remember back in the day when McDonald's would get the 29-cent and 39-cent a hamburger cheeseburger deal, I would load up on 30 of those and freeze them. And those were every single meal that I had. That's what I did because that's all I could afford. And when I say that's all I can afford, it meant that I would pay myself for an every single day thing. You have to make it like a hobby. And if you think that, oh, well, someday I'll have money and it's going to get better someday, but you don't actually work the process and work the system of investing and saving, it will never get better. So a little bit of hardship now when you're early on in life will make things so much easier later on in life for you when your body won't do it anymore. And let's face it, as plumbers, our bodies, after about 20 years, 30 years, if we're doing this, they get pretty destroyed. So as far as investing goes, John, there are so many companies out there. I hear you talking about compound interest and a lot of these terms that you're using in the 401k. And I just got to wonder, because of the training that I've had and the training that I've tried to do with my guys over the years, I've got to wonder, I mean, how many people really know the definition of compound interest? How many people really know what the 401k is? And it's not that you haven't made that information available, but it's the fact that a lot of people, from what I've seen, they don't want to show up. They think that someday it's just going to get better, but they're not diligent in actually educating themselves on how these things work. There are so many companies out there that will help you. And yes, there's a small fee for these companies, and they take it off of the profit that they make for you, but they will invest your money in areas. And that's how I started. I started with mutual funds and different companies that helped me slowly build my portfolio. And then once I really started getting into it, started making a lot of money investing, then it became like a hobby, and then it was fun. And now it's just a big game to where I've learned how to do it. I don't have to pay other people to do it for me. But there's a company called Rich Uncles, and I've invested heavily with them. And it's a real estate fund. It's like a mutual fund, but it's all done in real estate. And you give them money, and every single 3 months they pay you back. It's about 7.5%, and then that gets lumped into an account, and then that money the next 3 months makes 7.5%. That is the pure sense of compound interest. You make it for 3 months, and then all that money that you made, even the interest, the next 3 months, all of that money makes interest, and then so on and so on and so on. And so compound interest, I'm making 7.5 every single year on that is what it turns out to be. And if you can make 10% in the stock market, you're really, really doing good every year. It goes up, it goes down. But yeah, I mean, I have E-Trade. E-Trade's another good one. You just open up the account, throw money in there. Amazon right now is a sure bet, in my opinion. Everybody's using Amazon. My grandma is using Amazon. My mom, I mean, people that don't even have computers are figuring out how to use Amazon and order things, and they now know the glory of having things show up on their door. It's so easy. That is only going to grow. I can't stress that enough. Amazon is nowhere to go but up. And yes, you'll have to ride the wave of the ups and downs, but I think, John, since the first time I told you about Amazon, and it was at about, $1,400, and you were like, oh, well, some people are going to, or think it's going to go down to 1,000, and I'm like, I don't care, just invest in it. And now we're at 2,000, right? Amazon's, I think, today was at 19 something, in 1,900. And when you and I talked I think it was last Cabo trip, it was at 1,400. And so the amount of money you can make investing is astonishing. And yeah, trial by fire somewhat, because sometimes you end up losing a little bit of money. But if you can pay yourself first, make sure you're saving 10% every single month. If you save 10% and then you don't have enough to eat, well, then, maybe you should, like John said, stop going to Starbucks, start buying those cheap hamburgers for a little while, and make sure it's a priority to pay yourself first and always save. Another thing too that I see a lot of my guys have done over the years is they cash their checks at these check cashing places. And I don't know if they can't get a bank account because either the IRS is chasing them, or they've got, they're trying to not pay alimony, or I don't know. But if you are taking your paycheck to a check cashing place that is charging you 10% or more for your money, well, that's the 10% you can save right there. So there's lots of ways to do it, but it's like everything. You've got to be diligent, and you've got to do it, and you've got to work the system that is set forth before you. You have to be diligent in doing it every single day, just like getting up every single day and selling jobs and making money. Same thing. If you think it's just going to get better magically, it won't. You got to make it work for yourself and do the system and be diligent.
Well said, Corey. Thank you. From a man that went from freezing hamburgers for 39 cents to becoming a millionaire, and doing it all in the same arena as you guys are in, out of a plumbing truck. So if you don't think that you can, then you probably won't. But there's plenty of stories like this, guys. And the first thing I recommend you do, I know we talked about a lot. First thing I recommend you do is go read this book called The Latte Factor by David Bach. Or there's a book called The Millionaire by David Bach again, but it's called The Millionaire Next Door. So he talks about how people can actually make this happen at any income whatsoever. It doesn't matter what your income is. Take the excuses away, because some people say, well, I just don't make enough to do it. I just don't do this. But everybody has a latte factor. Okay. Somebody has a cigarette factor. They're spending $200 a month on cigarettes. Somebody has a Corona factor, buying Corona beers, right? Somebody may have a weekend factor, into gentlemen's clubs. I don't know there's no gentleman in that, right? So what is your factor? What's your factor? So find out what your factor is, because this book will do that, and you can cut out your factor, and that'll actually make you have the money to do it. And there's also a compound interest in life as well. When we talk about compound interest with money, it's not only with money. There's compound effect of behaviors, of habits. Replacing a bad habit with a good habit also has a compound effect. And it compounds over time and makes you better. Like, for example, this habit about listening to audiobooks I just told you, right? If you make that a habit and allow it to compound over time, you will probably be one of the most wisest people out there in any area that you want to learn. If you want to get better at sales, there's so much material on sales that'll allow you to be one of the best salespeople out there. There's also a compound over habits as well. This is the key. If you want to get on 401k, get the paperwork, fill it out, get it in now. And what will happen is that automatically, when open enrollment happens, boom, you'll be in. You tell your LC or your ops leader, hey, I want to get on the 401k. They know who to contact. They'll contact the person at MEMA, and that person will get an application. You just got to stay on it. If they forget, remind them. They'll bring it. You fill it out. You max it out. We put in thousands of dollars for you in the 401k. So the way it works is, for every dollar you put in, we match it with a quarter. And this is all pre-taxed. Actually, at the end of the day, when you calculate it, it costs you nothing. It might cost you something, but it's not a whole lot. Your paycheck, you won't even notice a dent on your check. First way to start, listen to the book, The Latte Factor, or The Millionaire Next Door. Very, very easy to read books. And then get on the 401k, start doing that. And remember, this is not a race. This is a marathon. You got to just pace yourself. And then over time, it's all going to compound into you guys getting better. You get better at making more money because you're educating yourself with the audiobooks. You start putting more money away. Your income starts incrementally growing, because the better you get, the more money you end up making, the more money you're able to invest. And then next thing you know, you're going to have a success story like Corey does. Went from freezing hamburgers to becoming a very wise investor and making it big in the plumbing industry. So guys, thank you for being on the call. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Make sure that you guys take this information and do something with it. The worst thing is doing nothing with the information you get. If you do nothing with the information you get, you're just wasting time. You're just coming in and going, and you're not making any improvement. So we have to start making improvements. So start taking what we're talking about and doing something about it. All right, let me go ahead and read the blessing, and then we're going to go ahead and close off the meeting. May the roads rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine soft upon your face, and may the rain fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hand. Thank you, and talk to you guys soon. Bye.